Greetings, peeps of the interwebs. Jake here, and so I'm sure you're all aware it's been a few weeks since I last uploaded anything, which I'll go into details of that when I do this quick little review of the Defenders. So let's get to the Defenders. Just finished it only a few minutes ago. There's 8 episodes, which I think was a good move on Marvel Netflix's part to keep it a nice, tight storyline, like not to drag anything out in, like, make it like 12, 13 episodes. So honestly, I don't think that's necessary. And hopefully going forward with the success of the Defenders, Daredevil Season 3, Jessica Jones Season 2, and Season 2 of, Luke Cage and Iron Fist, will maybe do less episodes, because even though I enjoyed, in particular, Season 2 of Daredevil and Season 1 of Jessica Jones, there were still moments and maybe not even entire episodes, but just like enough moments in certain episodes where I feel like they could have cut it down to like 10 episodes. I think it would have been much stronger, just because I feel like there were some, again, kind of filler moments and just moments that didn't quite progress the story or the characters forward. And definitely Luke Cage and Iron Fist, I felt like there were just a lot of filler episodes that didn't quite it just didn't really add anything to the show. So, even though I would still say The Defenders, though it's a pretty solid show and a good kind of culmination of the previous 4 seasons of, or 5 seasons, counting, or no, 4. Yeah, because 2 seasons of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, or no, 5. I can't count. But the past 5 series, kind of all coming together, I thought was pretty good. I like when the characters actually do finally come together and kind of reluctantly team up. I like the chemistry between the characters overall, and I like their dialogue and kind of how they interacted with each other, because I thought that was very realistic in how these characters would interact with each other, where they're really not on the same page on a lot of things, but they can at least kind of come together on the very few things that they do have in common, like trying to keep New York safe and, all the kind of typical superhero stuff. And I think they improved to a degree on characters like Iron Fist and Luke Cage, who weren't the strongest in their solo series, which that's a whole other thing that I won't really get into. I feel like that'll just kind of drag this review out. But I do think that the showrunners and the writers gave Iron Fist in particular more to do. Still not great, and he's definitely the weakest of the characters in this series, in my opinion. But they at least gave him a little bit more to do, and his fight scenes are actually pretty good. Like, I mean, all the fight scenes in the show are good, but that was one of my biggest issues and kind of complaints with Iron Fist Season 1 is, considering the character is supposed to be like a adept martial arts hand-to-hand fighter, and his name is Iron Fist, the fight scenes were kind of poorly done, and there's not a whole lot of iron fisting for a show called Iron Fist, so they at least did that right, and kind of makes me a little bit more optimistic for Season 2 of Iron Fist. Just hopefully they'll bring in completely new writers and a new showrunner who actually know what they're doing with the show. Because, good God, I feel like no one knew what they were doing with Iron Fist that first season. And it makes me a little bit more optimistic for Season 2 of Luke Cage, because even though I liked the first half, the second half kind of tapered off a bit. So hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes, and mostly just kind of streamline the story. And again, you don't necessarily need 12, 13 episodes. Just tell however many episodes you need to tell a good story, whether it be 5, 6, 8, and if they do manage to tell a really good story in 12, 13 episodes, then by all means do that. But as a whole, I just feel like it's unnecessary. Because again, even Jessica Jones and Daredevil Season 2, which I really liked, still could have been cut down a couple episodes, and they would have been perfectly fine, probably even a little bit better. But that's just me. Could be in the minority here. So, yeah, as a whole, I would say The Defenders it's definitely a good continuation of, and again, culmination of these characters all coming together and basically being the street level Avengers, where it's kind of working in the same format where Daredevil was the Iron Man, in the sense that like he kind of kicked off this Netflix universe, and the Defenders again more or less being the street level Avengers, all kind of coming together for a common cause. But again, I still have some issues with the show, mostly with. I'd say this might be more of a nitpick than like an actual major issue, but the main villain is Sigourney Weaver, who's a fantastic actress. But I feel like bringing in an actress of that caliber, they could have utilized her character and her acting abilities a little bit more. And I feel like she wasn't quite bringing her A game into the show. Like, again, don't get me wrong, she was really good, but I feel like she, again, wasn't quite going like full-blown kind of giving it her all. But that could also be due to the fact that her character wasn't utilized as much as I would have liked her to be, especially since she's basically the leader of the Hand. I just feel like she could have done a little bit more. So that was kind of one of my issues, but also I think even though I like the idea of the Defenders fighting the Hand, this kind of shadowy organization that has their hand, no pun intended, in a little bit of everything, drugs, politics, business corporations, all that jazz. I like the idea of it, but at the same time I feel like when these characters are fighting this kind of shadowy organization, it's hard to have like a really good, compelling villain, because they're going against the 5 leaders of the Hand. That being Sigourney Weaver's character, Madame Gao from Daredevil and Iron Fist. Then you've got Bokudo from Iron Fist, and then 2 other characters they introduce. Really the only ones that have, like, Madame Gao, obviously we know a little bit more about her, and I think she's actually a bit more developed, but that's mostly just because we've seen her in Season 1 of Daredevil, a little bit in Season 2, and then in Iron Fist. But the others are just kind of, and Bokudo was kind of terrible in Iron Fist. Like, the other characters, they're just kind of typical bad guys, where they're just there to kind of be menacing and, kind of create their diabolical plan. So I feel like that was one of the main issues that I had is... And I don't know, maybe I'm just spoiled because with, again, Daredevil, we had Kingpin, who is a great, compelling villain who we kind of rooted for in an odd way because we kind of understood where he was coming from. And same thing with Kilgrave in Jessica Jones, David Tennant. But a lot of that could just be, David Tennant, his performance, along with, I don't know why the actor's name is escaping me, who played Kingpin. But both those actors are, phenomenal and really did a great job playing villains. Again, compelling villains that we, in an odd way, kind of were rooting for and liked, even though they'd be doing terrible things. So... maybe it's just I've been spoiled to 2 fantastic villains, and I was expecting a little bit more from the rest of the Netflix shows. But it could also just be because it's harder. Maybe it's just harder to, if they had fleshed out the members of the Hand, it might have detracted from the main story of the Defenders. So I don't know. Like it's not like a major issue that took me out of it. I just kind of would have liked a little bit more to these characters. That way, when they are kind of plotting their diabolical plan, I can at least kind of be like, all right, I can kind of see why you're doing what you're doing. But to me, it was just kind of like, we're bad guys because the script says so. So fear us and stuff. Ooh. So that was a little underwhelming, I'll say. I'd say underwhelming more so than disappointing. But again, it didn't really ruin my experience watching the show. It's still a pretty solid show, and I think is a good kind of step in the right direction for again, kind of bringing this Netflix universe together and also moving it forward. So, and I'd say if I were to rank the Netflix shows right now, Daredevil season 1 and Jessica Jones, I'd say, are about on par for me. Just because I feel like everything about those shows, the first seasons of those two shows, both the quality, the acting, and the story, I thought were all just pretty solid. Then Daredevil season 2, then I would go to Defenders, then Luke Cage, and then Iron Fist. So it's kind of, I don't know, I guess in the middle of the Netflix Marvel shows for me personally. But there are definitely a lot of good things about the Defenders that, again, just kind of makes me makes me look forward to the continuation of all these characters in their next series, and Defenders 2, Revenge of the Hand, or whatever they call it. And maybe they'll add more members to the Defenders team. Like maybe Punisher will join them. Maybe they'll do like a Moon Knight Netflix series, which would be awesome, and he can join their ranks. So I think there's definitely a lot of possibilities and potential that they can do with this kind of street level Marvel characters. So yeah, pretty solid. Don't want to go too much into spoilers. I'll probably go into can't even talk. A little bit more detail. Probably in the next podcast, where we'll go. Once all of us have seen it, we'll go a little bit more detail. Things we liked, things we didn't like. But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed this review. Feel free to let me know what you all thought. And now to, I guess, elaborate why it's been so long since I last uploaded anything. So last month, just a quick little update. I'd gotten a new job, but then I was pretty much exhausted every day I got home and didn't feel like doing anything. I would just go straight to my couch, watch like Netflix or something on like Funimation or YouTube or something, and was pretty much in bed by like 8. So I didn't feel like uploading anything, but then shortly after that, I kind of decided that the new job wasn't for me. Went back to my old job, and thankfully still have the position available. But then I also had to take my laptop, had to get some work done on my laptop, just getting some files transferred from my old one to my new one. That took about a week. Why it took a week to transfer files, I don't know. But that's another reason why, it's been like 3 weeks, because one of which was just me not having my laptop. And then also, I've kind of gotten back into writing, which, for those of you, actually probably everyone who is not aware of this, but something I've kind of been working on, like on and off, for the last few years, mostly off. Finally kind of got back into working on that, and that was just another reason. I kind of wanted to just focus on that for a little bit, and I don't know, just didn't quite feel like uploading anything just because I don't want to upload anything just for the sake of uploading. And even though I'd seen some movies, like I saw Atomic Blonde, Logan Lucky, I liked all these movies to varying degrees, but like I don't know, I guess there just wasn't enough for me to really talk about these movies and kind of be like, here's why I want to review this movie. Not that they're bad by any means, especially Logan Lucky. That's a really enjoyable movie, and I'd recommend it, especially since there's like nothing in theaters right now, as it typically is around this time of year, where August, September, usually nothing good. So yeah, that's why I haven't done any movie reviews either since Valerian, just because the few movies that I have seen just I just didn't feel that compelled to upload a review of them. But yeah. So mostly just kind of a combination of different factors, but hopefully now that things are kind of back to normal-ish, I'll start uploading on a weekly basis again, and hopefully me and the other Pasty Pale members will kind of start recording more often. But a lot of that is also because we all our work schedules don't always align. And pretty much everybody has their own other separate podcasts outside of Pasty Pale that we're all usually busy with. which is another thing. I've actually been doing guest spots on Jordan here of Pasty Pale and Phil, who's a good friend of ours. Their podcast, Mild Mannered Movie Men, where me and Phil have been recapping Game of Thrones Season 7, which has been phenomenal, by the way. So I'll leave a link in the description below to their podcast if you want to check that out. Whether you're caught up with Game of Thrones or not, they do movie reviews and stuff like that. So you can check that out, and I'll also leave a link to Reverend Spaceman's YouTube channel where he does the Toy All with Jordan and Out of the Loop with Dave. The Twitter, social media stuff. You can always follow me at Irishman Jake, and so yeah. Overall, just kind of been busy with other things, and again, just don't want to be one of those people where I'm stressing to upload something for the sake of uploading. So yeah, there you go. Quick little update. But again, hopefully things will kind of get back in order with uploading on a more regular basis. And again, the Pasty Pale Roundtable podcast will be up and running soon, and hopefully we'll be able to record that more frequently. But until then, hopefully you will have enjoyed this review/update video, and again, I'll leave links in the description below to all the social medias and the different podcasts and all that stuff. So until next time, everyone, cheers.